Hey guys, welcome back. Today is week 5 of building Hogwarts, and we're going to put a little bit of a pause on the building for the first bit of the video. And the reason being is because I'm going to be focusing a lot on going through all of my existing pieces, particularly the buckets that I have down here that are just old sets and previous mocks. And I'm going to dismember everything. I'm going to try and clean up this whole area, and I'm going to really just be refilling my stocks of pieces, getting an idea of what I have, and that'll let me know if I've got enough pieces to really finish the main bulk of the castle and what pieces I'll need to start looking at to order. I was also gone for most of this week, so we'll see a little bit less progress, and that's because I went home for a bit and I was able to acquire some more pieces from my old Lego room. If you do want to watch a video on what my old Lego room looked like, you can watch a video from about 5 years ago. I would probably put it on mute because I do sound like an adolescent teen, and it's very bad, but you can get an idea of all the cool pieces I have there, because this is a new Lego room, so I've not got all my parts with me, so I brought as much as I could back. So let's jump right into that. So I thought I'd quickly show you the bricklink haul from my own house. It is quite cool because I didn't have to buy any of this, but it still feels fun, like I've just ordered a bunch of parts. I try to really only bring something that would help with Hogwarts. So that's why you don't see any other random colors, and there's a lot of tan, medium nougat, dark tan, brown, and such. I was running out of these pieces last week, and I didn't realize that I had a lot more at home, so I got those. These pieces in general, I'm thinking of, instead of using dark gray and light gray as most people do for the dungeons, is to go a little bit different and try dark tan and medium nougat, just because it's a little bit more joyous of a color, and I've got a lot of it. The plates, especially the wedge plates, are going to be used quite heavily on the exterior. I'm not sure I'm entirely happy with the sort of boring green look. Of course, I'll be doing a lot more work on it, but I think I might change it out and add a lot more dark tan out there. Bricks. This, I actually had to take apart one of my favorite mocks I did quite a few years ago. It was just a house, but it was made out of tan bricks, so unfortunately that had to go. And I got all those bricks, some of these, and a lot of plates, so those are going to be useful. I got some train track, which I'll explain later, and I found a lot of these windows, which I was getting very, very short on, so that's good. And then this is a huge bag of, basically, I went around all my Harry Potter sets and such that were on display and nicked every single minifigure and accessory. Although all the sets that are still bagged up, because what I do is if I've not got the set on display, then I'll put it in a Ziploc bag. I'll make sure all the pieces are there, and I'll save it until I do want to build it so it doesn't get all dusty and such. So these are all the minifigures that I had out, but I've got a lot more that I will find. And then I found this, which was hiding in the back of a closet somewhere. It was obviously from the last time I did some sort of Hogwarts mock. So there's lots of tiles there, which is good. That's my mini haul, if you will. Next up is to try to get all these organized and then go through all the sets. And then at the end, I'm going to show you everything that I have, and then we're going to get going on a little bit of building. And that's how the video is going to go. Let's jump to that. Well, in case you're wondering, this is the equivalent of 1 bucket's worth. And you can see that I did manage to get a good amount of pieces, a lot of gray going on. And then this is all the parts that I could potentially use when it comes to filling all the interiors. These are cups, food, different bits and bobs of furniture. There's an absolute ton of cone pieces, if you will, to cap off all the spires, and a good deal of minifigures. So I've got to take those 2 apart, and then I've got 3 more of those buckets. Woo! So cleaning up looks like going from this to this. So I won't lie to you, cleaning up was an absolute pain in the butt. Am I glad I did it? Yes. Will I do it again? Absolutely not. Here's the pieces. Tan bricks, of course, that I was able to salvage from all of that. That was nearly at the bottom, so we've added a good, probably like 3,000 bricks almost, which is amazing. And then this used to be in a drawer, and now it's in a full bucket. These are all the arches and just other tan bricks that are quite useful for Hogwarts that I didn't want to get lost in there. Anyhow, let's get on to the actual building, because I'm sure that's why you clicked on this video. I'm going to start over here. I know you can see that, but we're going to start over here. I've been experimenting very slightly with getting the base shape of the bell towers. Here it is on screen, if you can kind of see it with the glare. So it's got a very similar aesthetic to the central tower, of course, but I didn't want it to get confused, or I didn't want it to compete with the central tower at all. So I've made it substantially smaller. This is obviously a 16 by 16 square plate, whereas these are 12. So it's 4 studs narrower on every side. So I think it's just going to make it match nicely with the rest of the castle. I don't want it to be too big, because you could definitely see that even the peak of the spires are really only at this level, so they're not very big, but I do want to add the same level of detail that I did for this building. So that's what I'm doing over there. I've also built up more of the area. See, what I'm doing is off of the base plates, I'm lifting it up 2 bricks in this area. And this just allows me, for when I do decide what I'm going to do with it, to undulate the terrain a little bit. As you can see, I've done here, it sort of gradually steps down, whereas it's very, very high up there. And at the moment, the thinking for this area is, of course, to be the Hogwarts grounds. Now, I talked earlier in another video about making sort of like a perimeter wall that encloses the area, and I'll make a courtyard and all that you see in the game. Typically what you would also see here is the owlery and the Quidditch pitch and all of that. I don't particularly think that I have space to give any of that justice at the moment. I'm not sure if, because of the arrangement of the tables, even if I push this against the back wall, if I can make like an L shape and do something with that, but I think that's more of a future expansion idea, because I quite like how it looks linearly like this. What I do want to include is Hagrid's hut. I've got the set just sitting down right there, so that'll definitely find a place in here. The courtyard will be a focus, and then I'm going to try to bring as much of a forbidden forest into this area as possible, and we'll see how that goes, but that's going to be for a later video once I get the bulk of the castle underway, because I really need that to define how I'm going to use the rest of the spaces. This is the Transfiguration courtyard, as it's typically called. Now, because of the sort of weird thing that I have going on here with the astronomy tower, there's not a lot of space here, so I'm going to have to figure out just how to make the most of it, because this is supposed to be a square, or a rectangle rather. I've got pictures of it. It's supposed to look like that, and it doesn't really look like that because there's this huge building eating into it. I'm not entirely satisfied with this, and that's because, well, I'll walk around the other side, and that's because in the last video, I was talking about really not liking the look of this on the back, and I do like these sort of buttresses on this far wall, but when you step back, it just looks a little bit strange, especially when there's this building sticking out on the back, and the reason for that is, one moment, there we are. I don't know why I just completely forgot that wall doesn't start right here. It starts way in, and then there's a roof on this side. So really, this astronomy tower should be moved over, maybe like 8 studs or something, so that I can have a pitched roof going into it, and that'll just give this facade a little bit more depth. And it would probably help if these 2 buildings weren't exactly lined up, as you can see right here, because this one is really hiding behind this quite a bit. So if I'm already eating into the courtyard here, I might as well move the astronomy tower over as well. In any case, those are just thoughts for another video. What I quickly want to show you right now is the central tower, or sorry, I keep calling this the central tower. It's actually, that's the central tower. This is the grand staircase tower. You've seen it before, but I've built it up slightly, and I'm using all these windows right here, these panel pieces, which I think is easier than using up the regular windows so that I can save them for other buildings. And I think that looks all right, just because it's going to be one huge space anyway. It's okay. You're not actually looking out of the windows, or you won't be able to see in because the space is so deep. I will turn it around as well. And that just flipped upside down. I need to figure out a better way to hold that up. Well, you can see it gets bent out of shape really easily, so that definitely needs to be tacked down somehow. But I've created a big opening on the back so that you can see straight in, because it's such an iconic scene, the moving staircases, that I decided I don't want some sort of hinge function. I'm just like, I just want to see into that building. I'll take you around the back where this is supposed to sit. And you can see another problem that I encountered. And I seem to always be running into problems because I don't think far enough ahead. It looks fine, and it sits above, well, it almost sits above. That needs to be moved back a bit. That quarter goes into here. That's cool. I need to make an opening so that you can actually walk through them. The problem is on this side. And you can now see that, well, there needs to be a turret right here, which is approximately the same size as this. And then there's a building in between them. But if there's a turret, that means that building is only going to be like 12 studs wide, where in realistic terms, it should, 12 studs is about that, where it needs to be about 20 at least. So I think what I need to do is actually move this entire stairwell back or to the right so that the turret moves from here down to here, and that hopefully I can have a little bit more space to deal with. If I move it back, I can extend this to maybe 20, and then I'll build this rock formation out to like right here, and I'll put the other turret right there. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do, or else it will just look way out of proportion. So I've managed to complete about one story of the bell tower so far. I apologize, it's a very hard angle to get because I'm against the wall, but hopefully you can see what I'm looking at here. We've just capped off the main doorway, and the first 1 or 2 levels of the bell tower actually don't have any windows. I believe I said that earlier, but I'm a little bit weirded out that it might look a little too plain, but I'm hoping that as we build it all up that you won't even notice it. But in any case, I've been trying to introduce these sort of bands of a pattern, if you will. So I've been using these round bricks right here in order just to give some definition. You can see that there are what look to be indicators of the floor plates along the facade of the building. And as I did over here with the Great Hall, I could have just used the, well, those little plates with the thingy sticking out of them. I have no idea what they're called, the modified plates. But I decided to do something different just because I have so many of those pieces. I think it looks all right. Right now, I'm wanting to show you this video, this little clip, because I want to put something right above the doorway. You can't really see it all too well, but there is something going on there. So I want to sort of indicate that this is Hogwarts in some way. I've got right here the bucket of all those furnitures and stuff. And somewhere in here, there are tiles that say Hogwarts or something of that effect. So I want to pause the video and get back to you once I figured out a cool way to sort of mark the entrance. I think this is starting to look really good. We've added another story, if you will, and we've created a new band too. So this is what was defining essentially the floors, if you will, even though it's completely empty. This is what I went with the door design. I actually really quite like it. I've just sort of inset some arches and put the Hogwarts insignia right there on a on one of those shield tile pieces. And then I've also added this extra sort of pilaster layer, which if you look on the thing, it's really, really hard to see, but it's that right there. So it is there. And then when it came to doing the windows, I actually thought that I would, well, here's a better look at it. I actually thought that I would take inspiration from these ones over here, which has the same sort of idea, and then it's sort of mirroring it. So we're bookending the castle, if you will, with the same style entrance on either side. Obviously, they've got their own twists, but I think it's kind of cool that it all ties together. And yeah, we're getting somewhere. It's looking very good. Basically, right at this point, we're going to cap it off and do that little pitched roof there. So I'm going to continue building, and we're probably going to get about another floor, and then these are going to start looking a little bit less like one big building and 2 spires, and obviously that will be capped off with the roof right there. So we'll jump to that. So I thought I'd let you in at this point on my sort of thinking whenever I get to a stage like this where we're transitioning between parts of a building, because see what I've got here is essentially just a very large rectangle, and now I've got to divide it into the 2 towers and then this middle section. So what I started by doing is, obviously I said I was trying to replicate this front end over here. So we have done that, and I think it looks really cool. I have to say though, using these pieces right here, oh, focus. These pieces are absolutely amazing. You can get them fairly cheap online, but there's just so many uses for them. And I'm using them to cap off these sort of smaller spires, and I think it looked really good. Anyhow, I'm waffling. With the roof coming across here, this doesn't necessarily have to meet this roof over here, but it is perfectly in line with all the rest of the buildings. I now have to put a floor underneath here and flatten off this middle section, and I need to figure out at what point right here I need to wall across to start building the tower where it starts all looking flush. So let's get to that. So the first step is done. What I did is I took plates and I essentially just mounted them underneath the roof. So there's no support underneath them except for on this back wall, and it's held all the way across here just by snapping onto these roof tiles. What that means though is instead of putting plates just on top of the bricks as you normally would, is now it's exactly flush with the rest of the bricks. Because if I were to put plates on top of the bricks, you know, it would create a one plate difference, which would mean I would have to run a row of plates around the entire perimeter of the building, and that's just a lot of excessive use. So that way I can just keep building with bricks as if there was no plates involved at all. And then you can see a little bit of a gap here, which I also need to fill in the same method. Or I think actually another solution would be to just run a big arch on this side and on that side as well. And that way, when I eventually get around to doing the interiors, there'll be a little bit of interest on the inside as well. So I'll do that. So you can see now what it looks like once I've played it all off. And I've actually decided to go against doing the arches on the inside. And I also did a miscalculation there. I thought it was 4 wide a plate that I would need. It's actually 3, but well, I don't really want to undo that, and I don't think you'll ever see it. So that's going to stay how it is. Another thing I noticed now that I take a step back is that what I was thinking with these sort of claw tooth plates is that they would, from a distance, look like arches in between all the windows, but in fact, it kind of just looks like there's some weird molding above it, which I don't like. And then, so what I've just decided to go instead is just using the typical round windows and using the classical arches back there. And I think that will just lend itself to having a little bit better of a design. I thought I was being cool with what I was doing there, but it just looks really funny. And I think it would be better if we kind of keep it consistent. So let's do that. So I've changed up the windows, and I think you'll agree that they do look a lot better than the ones over there on that side. They just fit with the rest of the castle a little bit better. And now what you can see here that I've got going on is I've added, so we're going from one stud thick, oh gosh, it fell down. 1 stud thick to 2, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm now going to place a floor right here, and the entire building actually insets 1 stud. You can see basically we're at this point where it goes in and it becomes slightly narrower, and it's, you know, it's a defining change in the building right there. So that's what we're at right now. So we're going to essentially be adding about 5 bricks right here and windows. And then from this point onwards, we're going to change from it being these sort of corners to instead using round bricks. And that's how we're going to get to the peak. So let's see what that looks like. Now, of course, excuse the extremely wonky roof that is just there for representation, but here's the bell tower. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with how it turned out. I think the decision to go away from those weird windows with just the regular ones are working quite well. I'm not sure if I like how these two flow into that one. I might make that one a 3rd row of windows taller, just to give the building a little bit more height. But I really love how it came out, especially if I turn you around to this side. And I'm not able to see the camera, but hopefully you can see what's on screen. I think that works. And then once I build another one on the other side, it's gonna really flow. Now, of course, this side looks a little disjointed because whatever goes in the middle is going to block a vast majority of that wall. So that's why I'm not too concerned about what it looks like. But let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed how this building turned out. I think the transition from this wider base to slightly narrower and then to the round corners at the top turned out really cool. And I think slopes is the way to go, but I'll have to get a lot of the corner convex ones to get this effect at the end. And I also saw that in the footage, the roof does pitch in first before it goes up. So that's why I've done the regular 1x2 slopes and then gone up. But there we have it. That is enough for this week. I thought I'd also show you the view from essentially the Great Hall, and you can see how The bell tower is ever so slightly shorter than the central tower, but of course, because it's a lot narrower of a building, that means the roof isn't as high. So even though the central tower only looks marginally taller, once we add the roof, it's going to actually pretty much get up to where it says tide line. So it's going to be a lot taller, but I do like it. And then once we have it mirrored on the other side. But thank you all so much for watching and being patient with me organizing my pieces, and that's probably why you don't see as much progress. That being said, I did essentially build an entire bell tower. So next week, our goal is to build the other one, and then we're going to look at doing something over here. We've got to shift the astronomy tower across. I think I've got that in my mind that that's what I want to do. And then of course there's this whole area over here, which I think for the past 2 weeks I said I'm going to do something with, and you've yet to see any progress. So that's all in the weeks to come. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. See you guys.